Hi, this is Lee. I'm back with another episode of my art channel, and today's theme it happens to do with blue lines. So, what are blue lines? Why are they called blue lines? I'll try to explain some of that during this time together. Okay. Um, so traditionally, blue line pencils were used on comic book art because it's a non-reproducing color, meaning that when they would shoot the artwork in the camera, you could not, it would not pick up the blue line pencil, and that's why they use it for a lot of editorial. I've got a old page here from Detective number 415. This is from Bob Brown pencils, Dick Giordano inks, and you can see some of the editorial commentary on here. Just up here, a few lines. Usually, they have it referencing like text edits, that type of thing. Sometimes, they'll circle something. Maybe there was dirt on the page or something. But also, you'll see some blue actually in the face of Batman here. Okay, so what's going on there is I believe Bob Brown was using a blue line pencil to essentially flesh out the image. So he was roughing it in there with the blue pencil, and then eventually he went over with a regular pencil, which you can kind of see right up here. And then Dick Giordano inked over some of those pencils, and sometimes he embellished a little bit and chose his own line. Um, so that's like a traditional blue line pencil, what it was used for. You can also see some blue lines, still in the suit over here of the ghost of I think that's Bruce Wayne essentially. Maybe he's supposed to be somebody else. I'm not sure, but yeah. So you can see the blue lines there. You can see them in the face down here a little bit. Okay. So yeah, traditionally that's what the blue lines were used for, just to roughen the image, and then the penciler would go in there and use a regular pencil to give a more solid image. Okay, I have another page here from 1980 by it's a Jonah Hex page number 37 by Dick Ayers, and Denny Bulanati did the inks on this. Okay, and again it looks like Dick Ayers was kind of roughing in. It might be a little harder to see this. You can see it in the tail here of the horse. You can see a little bit in the face. It's more like shadow. I guess he was at. You can see it in that map that they're holding up, but you also can see pencil in there too. And so this, it's Danny Abulanati. He, for the most part, looks like he's stuck to the pencils, and he might have erased a lot of the traditional pencils in there. But the blue line pencils, they seem to stay a lot of times. And again, they weren't worried about it because of the fact that it wasn't going to reproduce anyways. So um, that's what the blue line pencils were for traditionally back in the day. So in these pages are from like that Jonah Hex is from 1980, and the Detective Comics number 415 is from 1971. So for quite the while, and into the 80s, they were using, and even yeah, into the 90s, they were using the blue pencil, just for roughing essentially. Okay, because it was non-reproducing. Okay, come with the advent of the computer and more graphic arts using computer imagery and such. And scanners and all that, blue line started to mean something else at that point. Okay, in this case, I've got a cover for Scooby Apocalypse number 33. Now, this was done by a couple of old schoolers, Pat Olive and Tom Palmer. So when I originally bought this, I actually thought that um, this was traditional blue line pencil and with inks over it, just because of the two gentlemen that were doing it were older. So I just made an assumption, and this is probably from about like 2013 or so, maybe 2014. Um, on closer look, I notice some of the blue line image here. Plus, the blue's a little bit off too. It's not like the bright blue you're used to. It's a little grayer looking. Okay, that should have kind of tipped me off right away. Um, But then also I noticed that right here is that some of the blue type is actually cut off. So that was essentially printed onto this artboard. Okay, but there was nothing else really indicating that this wasn't blue pencil underneath actual inks. But I still love it. It's Tom Palmer inks, and doesn't make a difference to me because this is the cover, and the inks do a lot of times they look better than just the pencils because it's easier to see everything. It's nice and black and white, and these guys when they were inking, they were still. Tom Palmer was inking everything nice and solid here. So he had it ready essentially for them to scan it and then just color it. As opposed to a lot of pages you see where they'll just have X's in there where they want you to fill in the black and such. Or they'll mark black with support. BWS, just so people know that. When you see that on a page, it means black with support. And that means they want support inks underneath there so that they get a really dark black. It does not mean Barry Windsor Smith, okay? Even as nice as you would think that is to think that, okay? But yeah, so just a tip there for production. This is a page that I got recently. I showed this on one of my first episodes. And I had thought that this was originally blue pencil, actual blue pencils, because I had another Sweet Tooth page from a few issues for the back. This is from issue 3. And the other Sweet Tooth page I had actual pencils on there. Now, I'll probably have to go back and look and see if those are actually scanned pencils, which is a possibility. I just don't know. But something tipped me off here. So sometimes there's, it's hard to tell if it's actually scanned blue lines or actual blue pencil, because these pencils are pretty bright, and but they are kind of thick too. That's a little bit of an indicator that you're getting pretty thick lines here. But you know what really tipped me off here is that in the blue line outlines here for the page, like borders and such, on their issue number, the 3, it's inked over, but underneath it, it's got a blue 3. And that's kind of what told me, oh, this was printed then. So I'm guessing it's quite possible that, a lot of these guys are using like a Wacom tablet or different programs with their Wacom tablet on their computer. And then, just doing the pencils on the computer, printing it out and then inking it hand by hand. And I'm thinking that's what Jeff Lemire did in that case. Okay, so then my next page, again, another one that was kind of hard for me to tell if it was actually blue pencils or not. So what I did, but again, this blue isn't really a true non-reproducing blue. It's getting to be a little more gray. And this is Jonathan Case. He did everything as far as inks and pencils in this. And this is for Batman 66, the first issue. It's a pretty nice page. I love it. It's got the Catwoman, a lot of action in there. You can see all those blue pencils, which are actually done, according to him, I just went to his website and I found out that, yeah, these are done digitally. Okay, so that's another easy way to find out. Is it blue line pencils or is it digital? Is to know where you're buying it from. It should be identified whether it's the dealer or if it's the artist. You can just outright ask him, oh, is this actual pencils? Not that it matters. If you like the page, you like the page. But a lot of the way a lot of these artists work now, because it's a lot faster, is they'll work digitally as far as the pencils. And then they'll ink it, and it kind of gives them a little, some more revenue so they can sell the final page that's inked. Okay, but that's how that one was done. Some pages are really easy to tell when they're blue line pencils, and in the case of this one, this is Brightest Day number 19, and I'm not even sure because they kind of cropped off the name up top here. I looked this up on DC Database, and it says, and Rob Hunter just has signed it at the bottom. So Rob Hunter obviously had something to do with this. I know Rob Hunter does a lot of inking, though. DC Database listed him as one of the pencilers. I'm not sure. it listed Vincent Cifuentes as an inker. This is very detailed, like what Vicente does. But I almost want to say, and Rod Reis was also marked as one of the pencilers here. And to me, this looks like it could be, with all that detail, Rod Reis penciled Rob Hunter inked page. I'm not sure. I'll probably never know as far as how this works, unless somebody else knows. They can tell me. But again, nice looking page. But you could see where the scanning, the outlines, the holding lines, they're doubled up. So it was scanned with those blue lines in there, and then printed onto another artboard that had the blue lines on there. So that's an obvious tell that this is a blue line page. Okay, there's no doubt about it. Another tell sometimes is, again, the color. If it's a little blurry, this is an Eddie Barrows Nightwing #1 page. Yeah, this is from issue #1. It's a great action page, and that's why I bought it. I knew it was a blue line, but what's interesting on this is that the blue underneath the black here kind of adds like another dimension to the page as far as the color, because it's pretty even. It's not just in certain spaces. It's like a blue-black art page. So I kind of like that. And this one is inked by J.P. Meyer. And I think J.P. Meyer, I think he must be remote or something like that, because I think he does a lot of his stuff, inks over digital pencils. And again, it probably has to do with Eddie Barrows, because Eddie Barrows is down in South America, I believe. So it has probably more to do with Eddie Barrows. Some artists just specifically do digital pencils, and then they ink it themselves. So kind of like what we talked about with in Jonathan Case on that Batman 66 page. Also, I believe on that Jeff Lemire page. But in this case, I've got Sean Phillips on a Reckless page, and Sean has been working digitally for quite a while. I've got quite a few of his pages, and they're all digital. And again, he does it very rough with the layout in the blue line pencil on his computer or tablet, whatever he uses, and then he goes in there and he does the final inks, and he does a great job with them. I like the more recent pages that, from like books like Reckless, because he also he's printing out the text there. So in this case, it's dialogue in boxes. And actually there's a balloon over here too. But so that is kind of interesting. So they're not putting in the text digitally. They actually already got it printed out on the page that they're going to scan later. Or at least that's what my understanding is. Maybe they went and, I don't know, knocked this out later and put in more solid type on the final. I'm not sure. But I do know that he does his pages digitally, and he does a great job with them. And you can see how rough his digital pencils are. Same thing with Cliff Chiang. So I have this Wonder Woman page that I happen to like. And it's my only Cliff Chiang page, but it has Orion on there, and that's why I got it. But he does all his work digitally, and you can see kind of how rough this face is, and it's pretty light. So he's really just roughing it in there. He's roughing everything in there. So a lot of the work is actually being done with the ink. All the detailed art is being done with the ink, and the rough is for him to do his layout. For him to get his shapes and such, and then he's going in there and being much more detailed. Okay, some artists actually use a combination of blue line pencils and digital blue lines. This is a Chris Burnham page from Superman Dark Crisis. Okay, and and I could tell, the only way I could tell what he did, because I've seen him actually working like at conventions before, and he does use like blue line pencils sometimes underneath to rough everything in there. But I'm seeing also like a couple of different colors of blue here. I'm seeing more of like for the larger areas, these more solid areas like on his chest and around here, I'm seeing like a grayish blue right? But then I'm seeing a much brighter blue that's finer here. So I believe what he's doing is he's making a rough on his computer. He's printing it out, and then he's doing, he's tightening it up with a blue line pencil, and then he's finally giving us the final product with his ink. Okay, and he's got a lot of detail in his inks too, so he's a lot of little lines and stuff in there. Okay. Sorry, my screen went dark for a second there, got me concerned. And there's some art that I just know is blue line because I happen to have like the pencil and the ink too. But in this case, this one is Ivan Reis for Nightwing #4, the cover. But he is using blue line pencil in here in this maze background, and I think that was just essentially so that he could flesh out and build that maze without it, with it still looking kind of sharp, so you could tell what it was. And then he could ignore the blue line later and just go over it with pencils, the lines that he wanted. So that's the pencil, and I have the ink, and I bought them at the same time. I don't do that too often because it can get kind of expensive, but it's nice when you're able to do it. So Albert Auclair is who did his inks, and he's done a lot of the inks with Ivan Reis. And you can, again, you actually can't hardly see any of the blue line. You can still see some of the blue line that was on the original pencil that shows up in there, and you can see a little bit other blue line through here. And again, it's like sort of like a bluish gray color that it comes up. But for the most part, Albert, it's Albert or Albert, I'm not sure which, but he because Ivan Reis's pencils are so detailed, he's like right on top of those pencils, and there's hardly any variation that you can't see the pencils underneath, barely. You can barely see them. There's a little double shadow here for the line where he printed it, and so apparently again he's using a traditional DC board that has the holding lines on there, and he's also printed those blue lines from the original art that was done by Ivan Reis that had the blue lines in there. So you can see like the double line in there. But that's one that I knew what to I knew what to look for essentially because I had the pencils. Another one, it's the same deal. I actually I have this, oh geez, Trevor Hairsine or Hairsine. I'm not sure if that's if I'm saying his name right. But this is from a Deceased #5, and this is page 26. He's gone back to the traditional way of using pencils also, where he's essentially fleshing out the image with pencil. It looks like he did a blue line for everything initially, and then he went in there with a regular pencil, and then he did a pretty tight, detailed penciling there. Okay, and this is I'm gonna say this might even be a 2-page spread, possibly. I can't remember, but what the inker, geez, I lost who the inker was on here. Oh, Stefano Godino, I believe is his name. What he did was he actually blew this up to twice the size and put it on 2 boards. So he's got on 2 boards. You can still see the blue line pencils that from Trevor on there, and then he just inked right over Trevor's his regular pencils. Okay, but oh, and one other thing I wanted to point out, and I talked about earlier with the X's to fill in the blacks. That's what Trevor did here for this space background. He just put some X's on there, and then Stefano, he pretty much filled it in with inks and added the stars and such. So nice looking page, kind of different because I don't have any other pages that were originally like one board for the pencil, 2 boards for the inks. Kind of neat. Again, back to old school creating with Eddie Barrows on Superman number 702. He's using blue line pencils to flesh out images of his figures, the figure of Superman, the figure of this alien over here, the figure of this central figure there. He's also using red pencils. Now, I'm not exactly sure why he used red pencils. I mean, they're being ignored because there's a lot of red pencil on there and it's pretty rough. And you can see the black pencils underneath there that's much tighter and it's got a hard line and such. I also, you could act, and I know that for resale purposes, you can tell Eddie actually fills in his blacks too, because you can see the little X's that he has in there originally. So when he originally produces, he just had the X's, and then when you later on when he wanted to sell his pages, I guess he just went and filled it in with pencil. So sorry about the dog there. So here we've got